Hi y'all, and welcome back to Katie Q's Astro News. So today I'm going to be talking about the strawberry moon that's going to be happening here on the East Coast on June 29th at around 9 p.m. So the strawberry moon here in June is actually going to be happening in Sagittarius, in sidereal astrology at least. And you know, I like to talk about the individual stars, and the star I'm going to be talking about today is actually Purva Ashadha. Purva Ashadha is right in the middle of Sagittarius, and it's ruled by the planet Venus. So I always like to take my inspiration from the stars when it comes to my outfit today, and I'm probably looking a little bit extravagant with the Venus energy because Venus and Jupiter are both the benefics, the greater benefic with Jupiter and the lesser benefic with Venus. And both of these planets have to do with luxury, abundance, color, art. And so I really wanted to take inspiration from that jeweled gem, extravagant, abundant energy that you find here in Purva Ashadha. So I have a little fan, which is actually, I don't know if you can see, the fan is actually one of the symbols of Purva Ashadha, and I have a little pineapple fruit that I put on there to represent this abundant, fruitful time. This is also right after the summer solstice here in South Carolina. The strawberry moon is actually also happening right after the summer solstice, which is a very fruitful, full harvest, full bloom, vibrant time up here in upstate South Carolina. And actually, I would have brought strawberries as like a decoration. I have my roses here with me, but I would have brought strawberries as a decoration, but it's actually peach season here in the South. So strawberries are more available during the springtime here, so it's still a very fruitful season, and I wanted to sort of harness and decorate myself with that energy. So I actually went ahead and grabbed my little bowl of peaches and nectarines that I got from my local CSA just to add to the energy of this star. We've got a little bit going on here with this strawberry moon, and it's a very juicy and fruitful time, like I said. We're actually experiencing quite a few planets in the sign Cancer right now, which is a water sign, and specifically Jupiter is exalted here in Cancer in the star Pusha, and it's being joined by the lesser benefic Venus, which rules Purva Ashadha, also in the sign of Cancer. So we have a very blessed and watery, flowing, buoyant time right now, but there is still a little bit of a contrast going on because although Purva Ashadha is such a positive and free and abundant and creative sign here in mid-Sagittarius, it also is quite fierce, and it's very associated with war and conquering victory. In fact, that is the name of the star, the invincible star or the early victory. I actually talked about its sister star, Uttara Ashadha, earlier this year, and this is the star that comes right before it, Purva meaning before, prior to, or early. So it's the more fierce version of Uttara Ashadha, and much more active and confrontational as well. So yeah, just to get a little bit more into Purva Ashadha before I get into the rest of the stars and what's going on in the astrology. Purva Ashadha is, like I said, it's the invincible star. It's right in the middle, completely in the sign of Sagittarius. And like I said, it's ruled by Venus. And actually, its deity, which is what I'm probably going to focus on the most today, is another element. So if y'all have been watching and heard the other Astro News videos, for some reason this year, there have been a lot of nakshatras that are actually ruled by the elements. I think I talked about Vayu or wind with Swati. I talked about Agni with that Taurus moon and Kritika. And so now we're going to be talking about the Appas or water energy. So water and the water elementals is what actually rules the star of Purva Ashadha. So I'll probably be focusing on that the most today. The symbol actually of Purva Ashadha is the fan. So hence why I have the cool fan in my hair. But oh, I'm getting visited by Lily. Hi. What are you doing? You want peaches? And another symbol for Purva Ashadha is actually the winnowing basket, which is a basket that you use to separate the wheat from the chaff. And the desire of the star is actually to gain the sea upon wishing for it, so more of that oceanic quality. And their Shakti power is the power to invigorate or to energize. They're actually a human type this time. I have been talking a lot about Deva types recently, but human types are a little bit different. They're less morally bound, but they're also a little bit more humble because of that. They're also Brahmin types, so there is still a spiritual essence here in mid-Sagittarius because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Venus is actually also a guru, but they're just a guru in this earthly realm. They say that Venus is actually the guru of the Asuras, which are sort of like shadowy, dark, earthly forces. So like I said, the deity is where I really want to start here on this discussion about Purva Ashadha, because I do think that it wraps in the core essence of the star, because the Appas in the Vedic lore, in their origin stories, in their creation beginning stories, like the Christian faith, the world is covered in water, and it is actually through the churning of the sea that we get a lot of the deities in the pantheon of the Hindu religion. And the Appas were created in this original churning of the sea, as well as actually Lakshmi, who is the goddess of beauty and wealth, all different forms of abundance, including wisdom, all of these things very associated with the water element. And the Appas were created during this time as well. So Appas to me remind me of things like mermaids, sirens, water fairies, naiads, the sea nymphs, things like that have this sort of mystical, elemental, watery beauty, and they are there for pure enjoyment, pure play, pure magnetism and seduction even, because Purva Ashadha, like I said, ruled by Venus, is a very seductive and romantic sign as well. And actually in many mythologies around the world, there are many water goddesses, and they're typically associated with beauty, wealth, pleasure, joy, sexuality, and they, like, I think of Oshun or Yemaya in African tradition, or Aphrodite is born in the sea foam even. So there's this common theme here of these water goddesses being so magnetic and beautiful, but also bestowing things like wealth and pleasure. And in the spirit of Venus, though, to be able to receive the fruits and the beauty and the luxury of life, we actually have to have the space to be able to receive those blessings. So, and Venus is all about receptivity, receiving from another, from an external source. And actually, my friend Lakna, I'll have to link her channel down below. In her Purva Ashadha moon video, she talked about the importance of cleansing and clearing. And the Appas really have that power to cleanse. It's so ironic because water is actually easily contaminated. The water signs like Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio are really easily contaminated. So you see with Cancer, you have this hard shell, and many planets are here in Cancer. Like I was saying, we have Venus here, which rules Purva Ashadha, and Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius, as well as Mercury is also in Cancer right now. Cancer has this hard shell, and that shell is actually there because of how easily contaminated the mind can be. You know, the fourth house Cancer has a lot to do with your soul, your inner world, your mind, your sensorium, your home, your what's closest to you. And so they have this hard shell, this protective shell, to keep them from getting contaminated. But then also you move into Scorpio, and Scorpio has this big tail, or other versions of Scorpio have ways to defend themselves more fiercely with their Mars association. And then finally with Pisces is really closely associated with the ocean and the tides, and there's a natural healing and cleansing that comes from interacting with moving water, especially salt water. And so I really agree with Lakna. I think this is a really potent time to really focus on what needs to surface. Like she was talking about the things that are repressed within us that go unacknowledged can really cause so many emotional blockages and really make you unwell as well. Like a lot of my study of healing, especially energy work and Ayurveda, shows that it's the stuck, stagnant, gray mucus energy that actually leads to disease and discomfort and illness. So it really does matter that you address emotions and try not to repress them. They need to be expressed. And actually, I have this teardrop. Is it on the side? Yeah. Actually, I have this teardrop here because the sun still is in Ardra. We're still in Ardra season. Ardra is the teardrop or the storm. I actually did like a live earlier this year on Ardra, so I don't think it's on my YouTube or anything. But anyway, Ardra is the storm, and a lot of Purva Ashadha energy actually reminds me of things like in the Christian Bible. It reminds me of Noah's Ark or even baptism. Noah's Ark also kind of reminds me of Mula at the beginning of Sagittarius because it has this really grand, destructive, entire reset theme to it. But that cleansing and the rainbow afterwards with this promise from God, this star has a lot more to do with the feminine water deities, the mother, the womb, and the blessings of the goddess, actually. And yeah, that's a part of the goddess's blessings too, is protection and nurturance and a promise to a more peaceful life. Baptism, the purpose is to cleanse away your sins. And then afterwards, with that commitment, you move into a more high-minded, blessed life where you can even enjoy the fruits of life, where you can even allow the bliss and the beauty of life to even reach you. So I do agree, and it's been really it's been a huge theme in my own life lately, like not letting myself get too stagnant or stuck, especially in the realm of, like I said, emotions, romance, feelings. It's so easy for us to just stuff everything down and not address it, but I really do think with that stormy, intense, fierce energy, the fierce side of water energy will really bring up and stir up a lot of these issues. And the purpose is for it to be washed away and cleared away to make space for the fruits of the life that we're hoping for. So any type of cleansing or healing activity that you can think of is also really great right now. Especially something that involves water, because like I said, water has within it that capacity for cleansing. So it's like on one hand, it's easily contaminated, but it's also the very thing that helps us to wash and cleanse ourselves, our home, the items around us. But any type of cleansing that also involves salt, like I said, the ocean with its salty, moving ions creates these negative ions in the air that can help clear your aura, clear your mind, make you feel calm. Also a salt bath if you don't have access to the ocean or if it's too cold where you're at. Anything like any cleansing herbal teas. Also, fasting can be helpful right now to prevent any overindulgence as well, because Venus and Jupiter both have a sweet tooth. They're both associated with sweets and desserts, so it can be easy to get kind of wrapped up in that right now. So any type of cleaning or clearing, especially spiritual cleansing as well, whether it's from prayer, cleansing yourself from prayer and protecting yourself, or doing a sage, or I like to use frankincense in my home and like burn frankincense on a incense burner like they have it like Catholic churches. Any way that you like to cleanse your space and pray over your space would be really favorable right now. Another underrated way of cleansing is also crying. So any type of art that moves you, that makes you feel emotional, whether it's a movie or a song, it can be really helpful to tap into other people's emotional flow, especially if you're backed up emotionally, or if you've been feeling really depressed or detached or just fearful, not feeling safe to express yourself can be a huge issue as well. And I feel like now is a really good time to maybe connect with art that might have a little bit more emotional element to it to kickstart your own emotional rediscovery. And it's all for a cause, you know, these goddesses, thinking of Aphrodite born in the sea foam and Lakshmi and the Appas born in the churning of the sea. It's like this churning, this flow, this this drama, this juxtaposition is really important for us to continue to tap into the joy of life as well. It shouldn't always feel so bad. It can only be persistently bad when things are stagnant. And so it's always important to try and reattach to that flow state. This is a super creative sign, actually. If you've ever watched any of Claire Nocty's videos, she will tell you first and foremost that Purva Ashadha here in mid-Sagittarius is the most creative sign. There's so many artists from all different types of art, but they are especially prominent in the performing arts. So movies, and like right off the top of my head, I could think of so many, like Ryan Gosling is a super famous Purva Ashadha, and their trine nakshatras, Purva, Falguni, and Leo, and Bharani and Aries are also really involved in things like cinema and music. And actually, I thought it was really interesting here, talking about connecting to that flow and allowing other people to help you to connect with that flow. Some of the artists that I saw that are Purva Ashadha are actually Elvis, both George Harrison and Paul McCartney from the Beatles. Michael Jackson has Purva Ashadha. So, you know, these are very passionate, emotional singer-songwriter types that also inspire flow in other people. And actually, one of my favorite songs by Paul McCartney on his solo journey, just as an aside, is actually called Rinse the Raindrops. And so, yeah, that is like so funny because, again, it has to do with that sort of cleansing side of the water energy. So I really love that song, Rinse the Raindrops by Paul McCartney, if y'all want to give that a listen. Anyway, listening to that beautiful music can inspire you into things like dancing, especially intuitive dance, and allowing your body to flow, and again, to get out of that stagnation. Venus is fierce in general. Venus has a war aspect to her, actually, and so Purva Ashadha is right in the middle of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a very fiery sign, and Purva Ashadha is a fierce nakshatra. It's Ugra type. A lot of the art created by these Sagittarians is actually very passionate, very intense. It can also be very violent, very sensual, like very graphic, I guess would be the word for it. They really put their whole heart into everything that they create. They really are like lovers of the arts, like I said, so they give it their all, and they become these divine channels of passion and emotion, but also drama, climax, destruction sometimes. So these really more heavy elements come up in their art, but I think that's important because I think sometimes that's exactly the reason why we shy away from our emotions, is because they're too intense, or we have our own concepts of ourselves that get challenged by these emotions and these reactions within us, and so we just bury them, or we're afraid of the judgments of others. And unfortunately, Sagittarius as a whole, like bless them, I absolutely love Sag. It's one of my favorite signs, but Sagittarius is Jupiter, so they're very intelligent, they're very wise, they're very spiritual, but sometimes they can be more on the dogmatic side of spirituality. I find that all sides of Sagittarius can be a little obsessed with purity, whether it's Mula, like Mula has a fixation on health and their own health and their own body and the health of other people, and it can be almost obsessive in what they renounce or destroy. And like I said, with the Noah's Ark theme, there's tons of themes with Mula about destroying what they perceive as the rot. They're usually huge environmentalists. They don't really enjoy humans' impact on the earth. They're much more like aligned with nature. And you can see also in Uttara Ashadha, which a little portion of Uttara Ashadha is in Sagittarius that comes after Purva Ashadha, is, like I said, this righteous divine principle sign that I talked about earlier this year. So Purva Ashadha also has this really almost black and white thinking sometimes, where it's always about good versus evil, the righteous versus the wicked, like I said, that winnowing basket, the wheat versus the chaff, who's worthwhile, who's not. This is classic. Everybody always mentions Hitler during Purva Ashadha, but Hitler was Purva Ashadha, and as you know, he was a big proponent of eugenics to the point of literally murdering people. And creating a holocaust against one race of people. But also, if you remember in our history books, Hitler wasn't a fan of many people. He wasn't a fan of black people, or, he wasn't a fan of people with special needs, old people. Like, he really just didn't like anybody. Realistically, he had a very one-track mind. He didn't even like himself. Like, he didn't even feel he lived up to his own extreme standard, that I think just really shows up a lot sort of in that downside of Sagittarius as a part of their shadow. I do think, like I said, this is common with the other nakshatras here in Sag, because Sagittarius is the centaur. They're half man and half beast, and like I said, they're ruled by Jupiter, and so they're philosophical and they're wise. Sometimes I find that they can be almost obsessed with this distinction between what makes someone refined and what makes someone worthy versus what needs to be destroyed in people. Also, just the descriptions of centaurs in general, although they love to read and they love philosophy and they're intelligent, they are sad. They're usually quite emotional because of their inability to be able to reach their divinity fully because of their animal body. Like, I know I said in Mula, like, they have the sort of horse body that's holding them back, but in a way it's almost kind of tragic because they feel like it's a flaw that needs to be rinsed away. This is yet another time that it's important to be compassionate when you're looking at your shadows, and maybe even, like I said, trying to get more information or an outside perspective depending on what it is you're struggling with, without jumping to judging yourself or shaming yourself, because that shame can exacerbate the repression and create even more issues and more stagnation and prevent you from wanting to dive in. And once you do compassionately bring and draw those shadows out, try to be courageous in purging them away. Like, try to be confident in expelling what no longer serves you, and be willing to then go out on a new adventure with a new mindset and explore what's on the outside of those limiting restrictions that you might have been holding on to behind your judgments. And this is a good time in general for confrontation, confronting your own self, but also others, or standing up for anything that you think is wrong, because Purva Ashadha is a Ugra type. It's fierce, but Sagittarius is still a confident sign, even if they're a little intense, moody, and extreme, they are still quite confident. Yeah, alongside those lines too, on the flip side, when it comes to love and romance and your heart feelings towards other people, it's important to also be really confident in taking a stand with love and fighting for love, making a move on someone. Anything that takes confidence and love is really important for this sign too, because Purva Ashadha is very seductive, very magnetic, and they're able to churn the passion in other people. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask that person out on a date, or, make a move, get out there, or try again in love, even if you've been hurt after, addressing some of the limiting narratives and beliefs that you might have been holding in your heart about yourself and your deservingness or willingness to connect with others in a romantic and erotic way. It's also classic Sagittarius to want to travel, and with this fan symbolism, actually with Purva Ashadha, I always think of being fanned on a beach at a luxury island, like a private island on a beach resort or something like that. That's sort of relaxed with the pineapple, enjoying yourself. So and up here, we actually just had the summer solstice. So, it's summertime, the children are out of school. This would be a really excellent time to have any sort of vacation, but especially a vacation that involves water of any kind, visiting a waterfall or visiting a beach, of course, or any other type of water-related activities would be really great right now. Going on vacation really activates that Shakti power of Purva Ashadha, that power to invigorate and to energize, and it comes from that restoration of adventure. Even though a lot of people will say going on vacation is exhausting in and of itself and that you need a vacation afterwards, the real energizing part of Sagittarius and travel and adventure is the newness. It re-stimulates your brain and gets you thinking in a new way and keeps things fresh and interesting. And so a lot of our exhaustion, like I said, and tiredness, sluggishness, and depression comes from being stuck, like repeating the same cycles, being stuck in the same place and stagnating. And so you'd be surprised how much energy you can find just on your mind alone, just on being stimulated or being passionate. Like I said, being in contact with art. I mean, there's plenty of times I'm a painter, so there's plenty of times where I set things up to paint and I feel like I don't want to, and then I'm exhausted and then I don't have enough time. But once you enter the flow state, you're just lost in it. And now 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours go by, and then you're left feeling rejuvenated afterwards, and you don't really feel the same expenditure when you're stimulating yourself and using your mind. So other than the Sagittarius, the Purva Ashadha energy, only moon is there right now. We have sun, like I said, in Gemini, actually, and it's in the sign Ardra, the teardrop, and we have a mini stellium happening here in Cancer. And also we have Saturn in Revati at the end of Pisces still. So most of the planets are in water signs, and then the two that really aren't in water signs right now, Ardra, which has to do with storms and tears, and Purva Ashadha, which is ruled by the Appas and wishes for the sea. So a lot of the energy in general right now is about emotions, is about feeling, it's about water, cleansing, wisdom, family, and connection. Also, I think this is important to say, Mercury is going retrograde on the day of the strawberry moon, and it's going to be there until July 23rd, and it's actually retrograding from Cancer through the star Punarvasu. So we just had, in my last Astro News, we had Venus and Jupiter coming together in Punarvasu in Cancer. So we had this huge blessing that came through, and that blessing probably, for depending on, you and your chart and where it happened in your chart, the blessings of Punarvasu are connection, community, family, a sense of belonging. It symbolizes the home, and it talks about returning to the good times. And so there's probably been an expanded new amount of connection with people, like new connections coming in that will be part of our life for a long time to come. With this closing of a cycle and starting of a new cycle. So with Mercury retrograding through Punarvasu, it's really giving us an opportunity to really take stock and look at what new connections have entered our life and what their impact on us is, and just thinking about how the people make us feel, and getting a new opportunity to really decide who should stay and who should go, and how we're feeling in an updated way in our relationships. So, but of course, all the classic Mercury retrograde things stand. So be careful with your car. Try to be mindful of any details, like try not to miss any details when you're doing any sort of nitpicky work, but also try not to sign contracts right now. I would avoid that, or anything that is too technical in nature. It would be better to just stay in that sort of hopeful, emotional, subjective sort of experience that we've got going on right now with all this water energy. I also remember KRS was saying on his channel about Punarvasu how it's important to review things multiple times. So I definitely think with Mercury being here, if there is something that has to be done, like a contract needs to be signed or something of that nature, or any sort of detailed work, any planning, try to do it, write it out, and then come back the next day, and then maybe come back even a third time and really check things over multiple times before committing to it. It's a little tedious. I would recommend avoiding it altogether, but if you have to, I would just double check, triple check. And we are really looking at all sides of Cancer here too, because the planets are all in different nakshatras in Cancer. So we're definitely seeing like the home and the community with Mercury here in Punarvasu. But you also have Jupiter exalted in Pusha, which is like the nourishing udders, the nourishing side of the mother. It's the most auspicious sign. Like I said, it's Jupiter's exaltation point. So we're getting boons and gains around love and community and compassion. While also we have Venus here. I'm pretty sure Venus right now is in Ashleisha, which is the more dark side of the mother, the dark feminine, the more constricting, cold, and calculated side of the mother. So we're really getting a spread of Cancer energy in particular. But then, like I said, we also have Saturn in Pisces. And so it's just really important to, analyze even that in particular, like your mother, your relationship with your mom, her impact on you if you're a mother, and really focusing on the positive things that you have gained from your mother or your mother's side of the family, but also to challenge anything negative maybe that has come up from your idea of nurturing or your idea of emotional expression. It isn't to punish you, it's not to shame you or anyone. We all have emotional issues, and it's just important to take these opportunities for them to be washed away from us and cleansed away from us. And we can always rewrite those stories. So mindful of your emotions, but try not to drown in them at the same time. There's a lot of other interesting things about this star. Like their animal is the monkey. I think I said this in Purva Ashadha, but their animal is technically the monkey, but some people say they're the alien, like the male alien. And then Dr. Pi was talking about Shravana, maybe he was talking about Purva Ashadha. Shravana in Capricorn is their yoni consort. And yeah, he was saying that they are kind of like a human, like a forest-based human that's like extinct now, that maybe existed during the time that the Vedas were written. And I thought that was just so fascinating. I don't know. I love astrology. I especially love Vedic astrology because of all these details. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me as usual. I'm so grateful. I just wanted to say a little bit of gratitude here at the end, that it's been really cool to like get out of my comfort zone myself and like talk about my passion and ramble on, and that people have found interest in it or have found it helpful. It's been so rewarding to connect with everyone and to share this. It's something that I also spend a lot of time judging myself on. Actually, I have Jupiter here in the star Purva Ashadha, and it's my Atmakaraka. So your Atmakaraka is like your soul indicator. It's how you burn your karmas away. And Jupiter is not necessarily well placed in my chart either. So yeah, I have been feeling really blessed and supported lately. Like I've made a lot of changes, and I definitely am starting to see the impact actually of like working with my Atmakaraka and sharing my wisdom. And I am just so grateful to everyone who's watching now, who's made it to the end, and who comments and shares. Like it's just been so amazing just to have like a full circle moment like this, where I've loved astrology my whole life, and it's just something I was so ashamed of. And so bringing it out and sharing it with people has given me such a new perspective. And like I said, in that Cancer vibe with Jupiter in Cancer right now, I definitely have been specifically feeling that. Like I wanted to share more online. That way I could connect with people, because I'm super isolated most of the time. And I think just taking this as my own opportunity to get out of my shell has just snowballed me into more and more community, more types of connection. And I just, I don't know, I guess people usually start social media with this sort of ambitious finance based goal, but I think for me it was emotional in nature and connection based in nature, and I'm really starting to feel that, like the true connection, feeling like I'm a part of a true community. And I just can't wait to see where the rest of this takes me. And I guess on that note too, I think that I am going to be doing a little bit more content, especially later this year. I'm going through a lot of changes and transition right now, so hopefully later this year, when things settle out, I'll be able to expand a little bit more. I have a few more ideas for Astro News actually, but also just content in general. So anyway, I don't want to ramble on forever. So yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed strawberry moon, and I love you all. Bye.